it's my pleasure at this time to introduce Mark Gerberich, who's the president and CEO of the International Soapbox Derby. He has over 10 full-time employees and almost a $2 million budget. In addition, on the side, he teaches sports management at UA. It sounds like many of you have already crossed paths with Mark Gerberich. It seems that his love for sports and activities has been completely visible throughout his career line, despite the fact that Bill Manby let him down. So at this point in time, I'd like to have Mark assume the meeting and share your screen. Mark, thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Rob. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here and really appreciate what Rotary does in the community. You know, as we all know, Akron's a great place to collaborate and partner and do great things in the community, and I appreciate what you guys do. It is great to see so many friends out there, and looking forward to getting back in business with you here in the next week. That'll be fun. And it did not surprise me, of course, right, that Jacinto would have the correct answer to the James Bond question. I was with Cheryl on Casino Royale, but as a Class 36 graduate this past year, we did a number of tests and quizzes and fun competitions, and Jacinto's always the team that you wanted to be on if you were going to win. So it's interesting to be here with you guys, you know, virtually. And what I want to do today is really talk about managing in the COVID period. Can everybody see that screen? You can shake, yeah, good. So I want to give you a little background on me. I've been a leader of small organizations for the last 30 years. My first experience in trying times was with the Pro Bowlers Tour. In 1991, the Pro Bowlers Tour got $200,000 every time we were on TV. In 1992, we got $50,000 we were on TV. So we've been cutting expenses for a long time, and I've been managing in very different markets. You know, however, this one is really different, and based on what you're doing in your business, I'm really not going to tell you anything that's different that you guys are experiencing, but I really want to share how the Soapbox Derby is coping in these times. I think the COVID period's really challenging due to the polarization of things and virus thoughts. Some people think it's nothing, others won't go outside. And then I think leaders just have to make the best decision they can make on the best information they have at the current time. And the other challenge with that is all the different information that we're all getting in. As we get different information in, it becomes quite a challenge. So I challenge all of us to do a couple things, right? Have compassion for everybody and what they're doing in their business, right? You know, for a while it was us. And when we made the decision to cancel this year's All-American race, we had 50% of the people that were really happy, and we had 50% of the people that were really upset. And you can see it going on right now with education. And, you know, so you know what you're doing in your business, you know how challenging that is. And what I'm asking everybody to do is just have compassion for each other as we all deal with whatever we're dealing with. I think the other thing is listen to people that you trust, and listen to people that you know, are good leaders. It's really a challenge in today's world to listen to good leaders. So in going back to the Soapbox Derby pre-COVID, the Soapbox Derby had this great momentum coming into 2020. I've been here 3 years, and it's been very, very exciting. We have a lot of community partnerships and collaboration going on, and we've been able to raise a bunch of money since I started and put the Derby in a really good position as we were moving forward. Our grants were up 45% over the last year. We've seen a slight increase in racing, which was the first time in a long time, and our education programs are going really well. So when the COVID hit, we really only have 5 revenue streams at the Derby when I got here. So the 5 major revenue streams are sanctioning races around the country, selling car parts, sponsorships, grants, and donations. So the biggest challenge was when we stopped racing, one of our major revenue streams went away. And when you're not racing, then people are not buying parts. So we saw 2 of our major revenue streams go down to 0. We were really, really fortunate, and without First Energy, there wouldn't be a Soapbox Derby. So last year we signed a new 5-year agreement with First Energy, and this was the first year. And even though there was no race, they kept their money in at the Derby. Without that donation or without that generous support, we really wouldn't be in a good position right now. So the other thing that really helped Soapbox Derby at this time is our iconic brand. So we've been around since racing in 1935 in Akron, and everybody knows what Soapbox Derby is. Really though, people don't know what the new Soapbox Derby is. So what I want to do today is really talk through some of that change that we've had over the last 10 years and how that's really helping the Derby now. For 75 years, we were a racing organization. We had races and kids built cars and came to Akron and raced, and it was great. And about 10 years ago, we started putting together a program around STEM education. And it was really, really important to integrate racing and STEM into schools and with kids. And that's been a really big focus for us. And we were able to pivot right before the COVID hit. As soon as the COVID hit, we were really able to pivot and focus on our at-home education program. So all the kids went home from school, nothing to do. So we came out with workbooks and cars, small cars, large cars. And then our new car that we're working with the University of Akron on, and it's an autonomous race car. So it's robotics. Building a robotics car that kids can program and race, and very exciting. So we're really happy with where we're going with that. During this time period, we had to get really creative in trying to come up with ways to fund programs to get these cars into kids' hands. So with grants from Huntington Bank, GPD, Akron Community Foundation, we were able to get some cars out to the community. If you have kids or grandkids that are in the elementary grades, Legacy Motors of Akron still has some little mini cars with mini workbooks that you can go pick up for free. And that's been really good. We've gained so much support during this time frame from individuals, companies, and foundations to really help us on the educational front. So in looking at the Derby, we were really fortunate, in this difficult time, in that we have a really strong board. We have a working board. If anybody's looking for a place to get involved, we would be glad to have you. What I started when I came here is putting people on committees rather than putting people on boards. I thought boards are like people coming to church, right? As soon as somebody walks in the door at church, they say, I'd like to volunteer, right? You guys are all asking to raise hands. As soon as you raise your hand, we overwhelm the people, and 6 months later, they feel overwhelmed, and then they're looking for the door on the way out. So we've been really fortunate to bring people in, get them on committees, gauge their interest in Soapbox Derby, and really put together a strong working board. So back in March, our executive committee started meeting with me on a weekly basis, and that's been invaluable. So making sure that we're blocking and tackling and doing the things we need to do, saving money. The Derby is really a great steward of money to begin with. We don't spend much money, and it's been really good in our staff finding different ways, getting creative, finding different ways to save money, and then really me out beating the bushes and trying to bring the dollars in. But with my background and the support of the executive committee, we've been able to put together a plan that carries the Derby cash flow plans for the next 18 months. Obviously, in today's world, P&L doesn't matter as much, right? We're going to lose tons of money this year, so everything is all about cash flow. So how do we come out of the other end better than what we went in? So right now, we're still not racing at full strength. Every time you do, we just had a race in Nebraska this weekend where they have no cases of COVID in a town called Ogallala. And, but there were still some people that didn't want to travel and didn't want to go to the race. So they had small field, they lost some money in putting on a race. So that's been difficult. The other thing is with the causes being so dire, right, in feeding people and taking care of shelter and food and clothing, we've lost out on a number of grants that we are used to getting. So let me try and say this the right way. And if anybody has any questions, we can address them at the end. But, for full disclosure, the Soapbox Derby has money in the bank today, right? And that's the good news, right? The bad news is that, remember those race cities that pay us sanctioning fees? They all paid their fees in 2020. And now we've moved most of those fees to 2021, right? So, if you're a season ticket holder for the Tribe, or you're a season ticket holder, at Playhouse Square or Blossom Music Center, everybody's asking you to keep your fees in. So we did the same. And so the good news is we have money in the bank. The bad news is we have a lot of deferred revenues that are going to come due in 2021. No matter how conservative you are with budgets, there is no crystal ball. There is no clear answer for what we're going to get here. So our keys going forward have been to be flexible with staff, cutting revenues, gaining, or cutting expenses, gaining revenues, so that you can survive a not-for-profit. So, how can you help? Just help us get the word out, right? The Soapbox Derbies, this is not your father's Soapbox Derby. During any regular year, we have 75 events at the track. You can have your corporate event here. We have a number of community event days at the track for underserved people, inclusion day where we get your Rotary camp kids out and they go down the track. We have senior day, we have Veterans Day, we have a number of different days like that. We're trying to attack two different things, right? So the city has had difficulties in this time, and they've cut back on supporting the Soapbox Derby from financial aspect, and then our track and our facility is in need of help for upgrading and a little tender loving care. We have about $35,000 in capital grants that we're excited to put to use here, but our racetrack and our sidewalks and signage, we figure we need about $150,000 to do. So try, any way that you can help, either individually, as a company, feel free to reach out. I'd love to meet with you. I'd love to share our message, and we continue looking for partners where we can keep helping. So out every day, out trying to be part of the community, part of the bigger Akron. I've lived here for 35 years, and I'm very excited to be part of it. So so I have one question from Rob McGregor about the robotics program. So our robotics program is a simplified, and it starts with middle school kids. We're going to have robotics where the kids are learning from K to 12, but we've started in that middle school range, and I'm not the programmer guy. So we use an Arduino technology that the kids are starting with so that they can program, but we've put together a program, a booklet that they can put the car together and learn to program. One of the interesting things about ours, right, us being the Soapbox Derby, and it's all about gravity, right? So it really challenges you, even though gravity's a constant. If you make the track too high, I can make my car go straight too, because it just goes straight down the hill. But if you make the track too flat, it doesn't move. So getting the right balance of degree for the track is a key part of this. And then we're trying to create technology that does line following, that takes into sensors and the mirrors, and so that we can try and put that together. But just getting started in the robotics field. So Dr. Rob, thanks for that question. Any other questions out there? I've tried to pay attention to time, being sensitive to everybody's schedule too.
Mark, this is David Hall. I have a question. I built a Soapbox Derby car, 9-10 years ago with my son, and it's still beautiful shape sitting in my basement, and I don't know what to do with it. Do you have a program for used cars or use of them, or is that just a nice feature in my basement now?
No, that's a great question, and that's really, really helpful to us. Last year, we gave back, through our grants with the community partners. Summit County gave us a grant through the CDBG, Huntington, Akron Community Foundation. We try and support the inner city kids that really need the help. So, we have programs going at Emmanuel Christian School, at the Urban League, at South Akron Youth Mentorship, South Street Ministries. We would love to get that car from you, David, at some point, and then put that in the hands of somebody that could use it.
Great, I'll follow up with you.
Okay.
You get points for cleaning up your basement, David.
My wife will be thrilled. Any other questions? I'm looking here in the chat room. I don't see any.
Yeah, so if you haven't been out to the track, I see some of you are new to Leadership Akron class this coming year. We're trying to work with Leadership Akron. They always take a trip down the track. But if you haven't been out and you haven't gone down the track either ever or recently, let's put that on your bucket list for 2021. It's quite a thrill when you're going down a track that at 30 to 35 miles an hour. The city comes out and looks at the track and they say, oh, it's really good. And I say, why don't I put you in a car and send you down? And then you can see how the bumps are on a regular track without any struts and shocks. And you're driving this little buggy down the track. So, but we'd love to get you all out here and see what we're doing at the Soapbox Derby.
Mark, I got a quick question. It's David again. So, yeah, talking about the track and when my son was racing, 10 years ago or so, there was always rumors that, certain lanes were faster than the other. What are your comments being a part of that every day?
Well, so being part of it every day, I have a long history of fairness in sports, if you will. I don't know how many of you would know that every bowling lane is different, but every bowling lane is different, and the way you oil a bowling lane makes it easier for one person or another person. And so I managed Pinnacle Sports, and we had a lot of soccer and baseball, and our coaches wanted the grass cut a certain way so that the ball would either stay in bounds or go out of bounds. as soon as I started managing an ice rink up in Chagrin Falls the first day, the figure skaters come and they say the ice is too hard, and the hockey players say at the same time that the ice is too soft. So we had a disaster of all disasters last year during the World Championship, because the way they've set that race up, it's one and done. So you get your wheels, it's a blind draw, and you get your lane, which is a blind draw as well. And a lot of people like to get in lane one, but you have to know how to drive in lane one. So there's a certain way, if you get all the way out to the railing without hitting it, it's tenths of a second faster, but you could hit the railing, you can drive bad, and wobble as you're going down through. But what happened last year is our guys setting up the lanes tried to accommodate for that in lane 3. And, the day was really a crazy day. It was so hot all week long. We're begging, borrowing, and pleading for people to get us watering stations and more water and those showers that people can run through. And we woke up to, it rained at 7 o'clock in the morning, and it was overcast. And so all of a sudden, as the sun came out, it dried lane 3. And then there was wind out of the, I don't even know what it is now, southwest. And so lane 3 had 60% of the chance that day. And so it's just like any other sport, right?
Right.
Everything's unfair. You're picking on my kid and you're against me. So we're looking at how do we change those rules so everybody can have a more fair chance. The other great thing about the World Championship is starting, just in the last 10 or 12 years as well. When they used to come, they had one time down the track to try, and then they had to race. Now we're racing on Tuesday, we're racing on Wednesday. The kids have trial runs down the track, and then, they get, even though it's a one and done race, they've at least had more opportunities to race during the week. Yeah, Doug Cole properly pointed out that, come on out and experience the thrill of the hill. That's what it's all about. So if you've never been to Akron, take the ride down, the thrill of the hill. And then Mello pointed out, that, yeah, it's a really cool thing if you've never seen it, watching your Rotary campers, and you're talking about kids without limbs and kids with prosthetics, and how they make their way from the bus to their cars, and they get in their cars and out of their cars, and the smiles on their faces and going down the hill, it makes it really worthwhile. And, so the mission of the Derby, of impacting kids, with character and knowledge and collaboration is really important to me. And I think we're doing a good job of trying to survive in this difficult time. Yeah, so Pam says that she's going down the hill 10 times. Baird was a sponsor in our Corporate Derby Challenge. Our largest fundraiser has a Corporate Derby Challenge, which you get a car kit, build the kit, and race it against other companies. And that's just a fantastic event for us. So if anybody would be interested next year, that's our biggest fundraiser, and it's a great time for all your company people. Gojo used it last year. They had 60 people out here for a tailgate. So really a fun event.
Well, Mark, thank you very much for sharing your stories and taking care of our Rotary Camp kids. It was really a fun chance to hear about it. I did Leadership Akron a couple of years ago, and unfortunately that was a day that I could not attend. So I was the only one in my class that didn't go down the hill. So
we owe you a rain check.
I may be out there. So thanks very much, and stay safe.